Hello everyone, my name is Zenitsu and I'm back with another Digimon video. So earlier today, the Digimon card game English version Facebook page made a announcement post and it reads the following. Digimon Tamers. We have become aware that a number of retailers are selling Digimon card game products above their suggested retail price. We would like to provide an update to our post from January 30th's concerns with the availability of product. As previously stated, boosters 1.0 and 1.5 have been reprinted and have arrived or are on their way to distributors worldwide. Regarding North America, these products will arrive at distributors by the end of March. These products are also scheduled to arrive at distributors from April onward. Due to the pandemic's effects on production and freight logistics, there is a possibility of further delay on these products at the distributor or store level. Please ask your local game store to contact their distributor for specific information on when these products will be available in your region. We are committed to providing our players and fans with enough product necessarily at our suggested retail price. We thank you for your understanding and ongoing support of the Digimon card game. So just as a recap of their last post, basically they said in their January 30th post that they are aware that it is becoming increasingly harder to get Digimon product, and they want to make sure that they have enough Digimon product to go around, so they are willing to do a reprint, and they already has started doing a reprint. So this is them reconfirming that a reprint wave is on the way and they are coming. So based on the timeline of events that they are trying to lay out, we should reasonably expect to see these coming in either late April or sometime in May, if not later, just because of how their freight logistics and shipping and distribution and all that stuff works. So on the good news, we are still getting the reprints, and the reprints are still on their way, and they are dedicated to try to get cards into the hands of players, and they are at least aware that stores are selling above their suggested retail price, considering we have a vague idea on what they buy these things for versus what they're selling these things for. So in case you're wondering what the average store is going to be buying these products for, usually a booster box like this would generally cost the LGS that you're buying it from around $45 to $65, depending on the box, the product, the size of everything, and the quantity that they're buying in. So usually they will be buying it around that price range, and they will sell it obviously for a little bit of profit. So the fact that Digimon has gotten to such a ginormous degrees, considering it costed the stores so little to actually get the product, is definitely rather alarming, considering these stores don't necessarily have to be selling it for these insanely high inflated prices. So the big difference between an honest store and a scalper is the fact that the stores that buy these types of products at wholesale from distributors for a lot lower price than what scalpers have to. Because scalpers, they have to buy the boxes basically for the same price as everyone else, and in order for them to make any money, they have to charge even higher prices. But the fact that some stores are already just accepting scalper level prices is a little concerning, considering, like I said again, they don't have to. So what stores should be doing is setting the price to something a little bit more reasonable, because again, they don't have to sell it for these insanely overinflated prices in order to make the sales. But they should also think about the demand and the fact that there's a lot of players wanting it. So they also should impose limits on how much a single person or single family could spend. So that way everyone can try to get some product in, and that way they can at least start getting product flowing. But not all of the blame is solely put on the stores for doing this. They're just a business, and they are just trying to follow market trends. And unfortunately, part of the problem is the customers or consumers, because they're the ones who are willing to spend this amount of money on this type of product, thus dictating that the product is worth these prices. So the stores are only just following suit and selling you at these prices because you basically are saying, I'm okay with these prices, when reality states that you're kind of not. But the thing on everyone's mind is, how exactly did we end up in this situation, and what could we do to remedy this situation, or just to at least be a little bit more inclined to be more patient and forgiving about the current situation. So the big thing that goes into all of this was that Bandai didn't exactly know how much demand there was going to be for the game, so they didn't exactly know how much they should print for the game, and they didn't know how successful the game was going to be. So they were playing a little bit more conservative on what they were trying to release, and even though the release was muddled up due to the pandemic, that also has a huge factor into it, which I'll get into later, the whole big thing was they just didn't exactly know what they were getting into or how successful it was going to be, let alone how much it would grow and explode in such a short period of time, which they only printed so much to basically anticipate what they were thinking, where they didn't exactly know how much this game would explode and grow. So I don't exactly know if people know this or not, but Digimon exactly isn't the biggest IP in the world. So making a new card game on a relatively large IP, but not like a gangbuster well-known IP, definitely was a huge risk for them, especially since they already had a whole bunch of previous mishaps in their other incarnations of a Digimon card game. So again, they were just trying to play a little bit more conservative because it hasn't had that much success in the past, and seeing it have so much success now definitely probably took them by surprise. So with them already being caught off guard on how successful the game was, it also just takes a whole bunch of time to adjust because card games generally like to work ahead. So by the time 1.0 and 1.5 were printed, they had no idea how much product they should be printing or how successful the game was going to be at the time of those sets' releases. And because they have to work ahead, they can't just make some simple adjustments and changes to things to meet the current demand of the current state of the card game. On top of which, they also probably didn't calculate the level of growth that we saw, because as we saw from the announcement all the way up until basically 1.0 release, the community grew quite a lot in such a short period of time. So usually companies like to make a little bit of buffer area, so that was definitely already anticipated. They just didn't make it a exuberantly large amount of buffer area because, again, they didn't exactly know how much the game would explode and grow, and they were trying to play things a little bit more safe and conservative on their part. And then on top of everything, we also have to remember that we are in the middle of a pandemic, and that pandemic has affected everything that goes into making and producing a card game, so it's only expected that they would see some impact due to the pandemic, and things would start to go a little bit crazy because of the pandemic just messing everything up. Would they have liked to made more so that they could ship out more so more can be in the players' hands? Yes, of course they would. But because the pandemic definitely had its hands on limiting what they can do, they only did as much as they possibly could have, given the current situation that they were facing. This is more than just a Bandai problem, because even though Bandai doesn't necessarily have the best track record in the past, this is literally impacting and affecting almost everyone, so we do have to keep in mind that this issue is just more than a Bandai issue. And while I do think some of these issues could have at least been alleviated if their communication was a little bit better, we still have to understand that a lot of this is happening just because we are in the middle of a global pandemic. But like I said before, the pandemic is a huge factor, but again, this is literally affecting everyone. It is also affecting distributors, and distributors are a big part of this because they have to figure out what stores are getting what level of allocations. Not only did Bandai not be able to produce as much as they wanted, distributors also have to make the really hard calls on how they're going to be, distributing the games, so they have to decide how much each store gets based on all of the stores that they are interacting with. And right now, Bandai is trying to adjust it based on the current growth of the game, and the only way that they could reasonably adjust is based off of pre-order numbers, so stores have to put in their pre-order numbers relatively early, and based on that, they tell the distributors that they're interested in this much, and then all of the stores that are communicating with the distributor tells Bandai how much demand there actually is, so as more and more people are pre-ordering more and more, we could see that the prices of the future sets being 4 and 5 are already starting to go down just because people are putting in more pre-orders to make things a little bit more normal. So that allows Bandai to adjust accordingly to what the distributors are telling them that are based on what the stores are telling them. So that's why sometimes it is a little on the harder side to find pre-orders for future sets, because the store doesn't exactly know how much they're going to be getting based on the allocation number they put in. So even though a store might say they're ordering X amount, based on what Bandai is able to print and what the distributor is able to give them, they might actually only be able to get a different amount. So sometimes it might be exactly what they asked for, sometimes it might be less than what they asked for. It all depends. So a lot of stores are being very, very cautious, and they don't exactly want to take pre-orders super early because they don't have those numbers themselves. But generally, the way Japanese card games are made and printed is all based on those pre-order numbers. So those pre-order numbers are really, really important because that's telling them how much they should be printing, and then they usually will print a certain percentage to allow for growth and to just sit on in case things happen. But the important thing to take away from all this is that Bandai is supporting the game despite all of these issues, and that's really, really important because we believe in the game and they believe in the game. But they are trying to do the best that they can, and these issues, like I said, are more than just Bandai issues. Yes, Bandai is a big part of it, but it extends to so much more than Bandai that it's just really hard to put the blame solely on Bandai. Right now, my biggest pet peeve is just reading all of the negative comments towards Bandai and towards the current situation, just because it didn't exactly line up with your expectations. So a big part of anger is coming from unmet expectations, and obviously you cared a whole lot about the game just as much as I do, and one of the big things that's really frustrating me is just reading all of those negative comments saying that the game should just die, the game is going to die, when in actuality the game is doing just fine. We just need to be a little bit more patient and a little bit more understanding on multiple different levels towards Bandai, towards stores, towards distributors, towards literally everyone, and we just need to take a step back, take a good deep breather, and relax a little bit and just reassess the situation with a more clear and calm head, because the game is doing just fine. Bandai is trying their hardest, and because Bandai is trying their hardest, we also should meet them on that level and try our hardest to make the game as successful as it possibly can, because clearly we all care about this game, otherwise we wouldn't be involving ourselves with it. So the main point I'm trying to get across here is that really no one person or one factor is to blame. Everyone is to blame, and we all need to do our part to make the best out of the current situation that we have. Even though right now it does seem relatively bleak, trust me, in the future things will get better. We just needed to do our part, and we need to have a little bit more patience and understanding in order for it to be as successful as it possibly can be. So that's all I really have for this video. As always, feel free to tell me your thoughts down in the comments below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content, and I'll see you in the next video.